From gigantic apex predators that even the T-Rex feared, all the way to smaller ones that would be about the size of a house cat, we've got a variety of newly discovered species to talk about today. I am your host, Olivia Kozlowski, and here are the top 10 newly discovered dinosaurs that are baffling scientists. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Meraxes Gigas. Just a couple of months ago, in the northern Patagonia area of Argentina, researchers uncovered a new dinosaur species that is being called Meraxes Gigas. This gigantic carnivorous creature is said to have been similar to a T-Rex in that it had quite a large head and tiny little arms. The remains of this creature were actually discovered over a period of a few years, and in the end, the name scientists chose was after one of the dragons in the Song of Ice and Fire book that inspired Game of Thrones. Clearly, the dinosaur was discovered before the scientists saw the finale. The remains of this dinosaur indicate that these guys lived to be about 45 years of age and that they weighed about 4 metric tons and lived somewhere from 90 million to 100 million years ago. In our number 9 spot today, we have Jakapil Kaniukura. Recently in South America, scientists have found fossils of small, prickly dinosaurs that might just represent an entire lineage of dinosaurs that were previously undiscovered and unknown to science. This species is an armored dinosaur that lived during the Cretaceous era, which was the last era of the dinosaurs, about 97 to 94 million years ago. These dinosaurs were relatively small, weighing only about as much as a house cat. Imagine, instead of having a cat, having a little spiky dinosaur running around instead. These guys had a row of spikes running from their neck to their tail, and they grew to be an estimated 5 feet or 1.5 meters long, and rather than a small but mighty carnivore, these guys much preferred to chow down on the plant life in the area they lived. In our number 8 spot today, we have Mbiresaurus Raathi. This discovery came over the course of 2 archaeological digs, one in 2017 and one in 2019, after which the researchers responsible were able to uncover a mostly intact skeleton, which is astonishing. The skeleton is said to have belonged to a new long-necked dinosaur. Other than the fact that the skeleton was intact, what made this discovery so remarkable is that it is the oldest dinosaur skeleton ever found in Africa, as it was found in northern Zimbabwe. This dinosaur is believed to have grown to be about 6 feet long with its tail, and it weighed somewhere from 20 to 65 pounds. It is thought that the remains that these scientists uncovered might be as old as 230 million years. In our number 7 spot today, we have the white rock Spinosaurid. Recently on the Isle of Wight, researchers found bones, including a huge pelvic bone and tail vertebrae, that may belong to a newly discovered species of dinosaur, perhaps one of the largest predators ever to roam Europe. One of the leaders of the study said, quote, "Judging from some of the dimensions, it appears to represent one of the largest predatory dinosaurs ever found in Europe, maybe even the biggest yet known." He further added, quote, "It's a shame it's only from a small amount of material, but these are enough to show it was an immense creature." As of now, these remains have been nicknamed the white rock Spinosaurid, named after the geological layer of Earth that it was found in. Spinosaurids, which these remains are thought to belong to, are 2-legged creatures with crocodile sort of faces. These remains would have been from a carnivorous creature that grew to be more than 32 feet in length and that lived about 125 million years ago. In our number 6 spot today, we have a feathery dinosaur. Later in 2020, a team of paleontologists announced that they had found quite an unusual new dinosaur from Brazil. This feathery dinosaur is said to have been the first of its kind to be found, and right now it is thought to have been a carnivorous creature about the size of a chicken. There is evidence, however, that different from a chicken, these guys may have had stunning, colorful feathers and mating displays that would rival today's peacocks and other birds of paradise. They are also thought to have potentially had 2 stiff, ribbon-like feathers sticking out from each of their shoulders. Right now, there's a little drama surrounding this discovery though, because although this fossil and the creature would have lived in Brazil, our modern discovery came in Germany, which poses the question, how did it get there? Apparently, there are some conflicting accounts of how this fossil was transported to Brazil, and this exportation may have been illegal. So, there was even a social media campaign to have the fossil brought back to Brazil, but the State Museum of Natural History Karlsruhe refused. So, everyone's pretty mad about that. There's some dinosaur tea for you in case anyone asks what's the latest in dinosaur drama. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Yuxisarus Kopchicki. Earlier this year, it was announced that a stocky, armored dinosaur with quote distinctive plating was found in southwestern China. This discovery was incredibly important because scientists believe that this might mark the earliest well-preserved armored dinosaur ever found in China. Armored dinosaurs are exceptionally interesting, and while there are many fossils of these kinds of creatures from the late Jurassic period up until the end of dinosaurs, there really aren't a lot from the earlier periods, which is why scientists are particularly interested in these fossils. The remains of this dinosaur show experts that it was medium-sized, covered in sharp spines, and was quite sturdy and stocky, especially in comparison to the other species it would have lived beside. In our number 4 spot today, we have the winged reptile. Back in 2017 in Scotland, sticking out from some limestone in the water was the fossil of a prehistoric creature that was just waiting to be discovered. Upon further research, it was realized that these were the remains of one of the largest flying reptiles ever found that dates back 170 million years ago. The estimated wingspan of this creature was somewhere from 2.5 to 3 meters, although the remains that were found were that of a juvenile who would have still been actively growing. The creature was named after the Gaelic words for winged reptile, and this discovery was fascinating because it changed what we knew about the timeline and history of winged reptiles. It was previously thought that these kinds of creatures didn't reach the massive size of this one until roughly 25 million years later, but this discovery of course showed us that that simply was not true. This guy is now believed to have been one of the first big flying creatures that roamed the planet. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Dragon of Death. This massive prehistoric creature has been dubbed the Dragon of Death as it once hunted prey from the sky around 86 million years ago. With its wings fully extended, this creature is said to have measured a massive 9 meters or 30 feet from one wingtip to the other. If that wasn't enough, it is also said that this species is as tall as a giraffe, so in just size alone, this creature is terrifying. While scientists believe that this creature spent most of its time on the ground, they also believe that it may have been one of the first predators to use its wings to hunt prey, as it lived and flew in a time before the evolution of birds. In our number 2 spot today, we have the apex predator. So if you're like me and have a pretty basic understanding of dinosaurs, when someone asks what one of the most terrifying dinosaurs was, I'd say a T-Rex. And while this is partially true, it is also true that for tens of millions of years, T-Rexes were tiny, and it was other gigantic creatures who were really winning when it came to the whole apex predator thing. At some point though, there was a switch where T-Rexes gained the coveted title they have today, and researchers still aren't quite sure exactly how this happened or when it happened. But they did recently discover a new species that just might help piece some things together. This new dinosaur was identified by a bone found in a 90 million year old rock in Uzbekistan, and it is a creature that is thought to have been about 30 feet long. The dinosaur, which I'm not even going to attempt to say the name of, maybe we can have it somewhere up on the screen and you'll see why, like Ubirajara Jubatus, like that's my best guess, was larger than T-Rexes in the same habitat, but at some point they began to give up their habitats to T-Rexes, and right now scientists are hoping that this new discovery might just give them a little insight as to why. In our number 1 spot today, we have Australotitan Cooperensis. Researchers in Australia have confirmed that they recently have found the remains of the largest dinosaur ever to live in Australia. This creature was massive, being said to measure about 80 to 100 feet long and 16 to 21 feet tall at its hip, while weighing somewhere between 25 to 81 tons. These impressive measurements land this creature a spot in the list of top 15 largest dinosaurs ever discovered. These fossilized bones were first excavated from the ground back in 2006 and 2007, but it wasn't until more recent years that these findings were announced, as it takes years of analysis to confirm these kinds of things. These creatures would have lived about 92 to 96 million years ago, at a time when Queensland was still connected to Antarctica, which has made researchers hypothesize that there might be more of these gigantic fossils beneath the earth in Antarctica as well. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlovsky, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. In our number 6 spot today, we have Ubirajara Ubirajara